What up, everybody? Welcome to Smeezy MMA, and today I have a full card prediction and breakdown for UFC Fight Night Baku, Azerbaijan between Manuel Torres and Rafael Fiziev. This is a very exciting main event. I think it's very competitive on paper, and we're probably going to see a banger of a fight here. Outside of that, this is a very interesting card to predict, some competitive matchups, and potentially some fun betting angles for us. Now, I'll put a hand up of accountability for last week. Some of my predictions weren't so fantastic. My main event prediction was pretty good. And if flyweight's your thing and you're interested to see how I think Manel Kape matches up against the top of the flyweight division, spoiler alert, I think he beats all of them. I'll give you my reasoning behind why in my most recent video where I kind of just rant about Manel Kape and his potential matchups for like 50 minutes. But if that's your thing, feel free to check that out. Anyways, we're on a better mic now. Hopefully you guys can notice the quality. Yeah, man, I'm excited. Next thing I will note, I'm doing things outside of just doing some research. You know, I did a lot of research last card. This card, I'm putting my bias aside and I'm becoming one with myself. I had a discussion with the MMA gods, right? They looked me in my eyes and they said, hey, if you want better predictions, you know what you have to do. And it fucking came to me, man. Every single time I jerk off, my picks are not hitting. So we are practicing semen retention. We're a part of Semen Retention FC for this week, and our picks will hit. And they said you're going to fucking sweep the card. Not just who's going to win. You're going to predict every little detail correct. We're getting the method. We're getting the round. And we're fucking sweeping this card better than anyone has ever swept the card. Without further ado, let's fucking get into this, man. Starting out with the first fight of the card, which is not a very high-level fight. We have Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. I think these guys both are not that great. Nascimento on paper, 13-0, has some wins in LFA. You'd think it'd be great, and it's not bad, but he definitely has holes to his game. Not that Tahir Abdullayev is short of holes of his game either. Ultimately, you got to choose what you want to go with here. I'm picking Jefferson, who is more experienced. I know he only has 13 fights as opposed to 24, but he's fought the better levels of competition. He's done multiple 5-round fights. Tahir has as well, but I just see holes in Tahir's game that makes me think that this guy's not UFC level. And if he wins this fight, props to him. He's not winning another fight. If you go through Tahir's career, I mean, you'd see he likes to get the grappling going. Ideally, in this fight, he's going to be able to take down Jeffrey Nascimento, find a finish on the ground, or control him and be very heavy on top. This is very possible. When I saw him shoot in on takedowns on the regional scene from the fights that I saw, though, I didn't love his entries. I felt like he found a lot of his takedowns potentially in the clinch with over-unders, and a lot of it was because his opponents just sucked, and they would shoot takedowns on him, go for a trip, and end up on bottom. But that is something that Jeffrey Nascimento does, okay? So I'm not confident in my pick here. I'm picking Jeffrey Nascimento by decision. I'm going to say 29-28 with the strongest round of the entire fight being round 3 for Jeffrey Nascimento. The way I see it with Tahir is he's pretty plotty. He has some good power, and maybe it connects on the chin of Jeffrey Nascimento, but on the feet, Tahir struggled with a guy like Josh Togo, who off the back foot is using his movement kind of circling around, which made it hard for a guy like Tahir to track him down, find a good shot, and Tahir will have like 2 or 3 combinations where his hands don't look that slow, and he kind of extends a combination, but he's headhunting. I do think that Jeffrey Nascimento, although getting clipped less than a month ago by a spinning back fist and having his face cut open in his last 2 fights and having less than a month to recover from that cut, I think he should be okay here. I think he is the better fighter. I think what I see in him is he's comfortable off the back foot. He will look for the counters. He seems to have a good chin. If he does get hurt, I think that he will be able to recover. And in my opinion, this Baysangur Yakhyaev guy, I think he has better takedowns from range. Now, if you want to argue that Tahir has better trips and whatnot, and Nascimento is susceptible to trips, I mean, if you watch this Gomez fight, that's a very fair argument to make. Go for it. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely a take you can't have. I ultimately just think both these guys are not that high level. And if anyone's going to be improving more rapidly, I think it's going to be Nascimento for me. I think he's fought higher levels of competition. He's potentially fought better grapplers. Probably, you can argue, better strikers as well. Actually, almost for sure you can argue that. I do think Yakhyaev is a good fighter. He stuffed some of the takedowns, built into that fight as of late. Jean Morante, he built into that fight as of late. This guy is pretty gritty. He can eat a shot pretty well. Does he get hit a little bit too much? Yes, but ultimately, He operates off the back foot. I think him using his movement on the outside, circling, finding different angles should lead to his success here. And what I see with Tahir, while he is a big, mighty bastard, right? He's got some good power. He's going to plot forward. He's going to have the takedown threat. He's not that quick. He can be low volume, looking for the one shot. Like I said, he can be a headhunter, but his low kick defense is horrible. And if I'm in the Nascimento corner and I'm trying to make a game plan, I'm just saying circle around, find low kicks, and keep circling around, and then look for the counter when Tahir overextends. Another thing to note, Tahir's been out-grappled in more fights than you would think. Seeing the Abdullayev, seeing the amount of submission victories, the TKOs on the ground, whatever you have, he's been out-grappled by at least 3 of the opponents that I watched out of like the 6 fights that I watched. Kotam out-grappled him. Josh Togo even took him down. This was the guy who was operating off the back foot, landing calf kicks on the back foot. I don't know. Josh Togo is not a bad fighter. Once again, this is a 13-6 guy and a pretty low-level promotion. If you go through, I really do think that his 21-3 record is stat padded. He hasn't faced anyone that good. Is plotty on the feet. Can he find the takedowns? Yes. And something to mention about Nascimento, as I probably already mentioned, this guy has bad fight IQ. He'll shoot into the clinch, and then he'll go for trips, and he'll DDP max, WMMA max, and end up on bottom, right? So if he goes for an Soto guard, whatever it is, and just launches himself on bottom and loses this fight, do not be surprised, right? I went from wanting to bet him as an underdog to refraining, even though he's flipped to a favorite now. I know that if he loses this fight, it's just going to fucking piss me off. So out of respect for my cortisol, I'm fading this matchup. But I will be picking Jeffrey Nascimento, 29-28 decision. I think he'll get taken down one of these rounds, but he has shown a good ability to get back up to the feet. And he does mix the martial arts pretty well. Like, he might shoot into the clinch, what could be negative for him in this matchup, but I'm picking him. I'm breaking down this fight a little bit too in depth for 2 guys that I don't think are very good and won't have much success in the UFC. But ultimately, the movement from Jefferson Nascimento, and if he works in some low kicks, which he has it in his bag, it should be good. And he'll find some good shots off the back foot. I think he'll edge it out in round 2. And then in round 3, I think we'll have a strong round as well. So 29-28, I give him like a 53% chance to win. That's pretty fair odds at this point. I still wouldn't play the money line. I think the books are winning with the juice there. Moving on to the next fight of the card, Beksat Almakhan versus Jean Matsumoto. I can now give you an image of these young gentlemen. Very, very interesting fight. This is one of my favorite fights on this card. I think this could end up being an absolute banger. And Beksat is 1-2 in the UFC, but as you guys probably know, he has fought the who's who. He's fought Umar Magomedov, Alexandre Topuria, who also looks very good, and many people are saying is going to be at the top of the bantamweight division for a long period of time. And then he beat Brad Katona, I want to say. It was one of those tough guys that was complete unks, and Beksat KO'd him with an uppercut very early. Yes, Brad Katona, who has had a good chin throughout his career, granted, has been dropped multiple times and was due to get knocked out at some point. That doesn't discredit the power of Beksat, though. This guy is super powerful, pretty precise, and if Jean Matsumoto's going out there, putting his chin on the platter, and he's getting touched up the way that he's gotten touched up some of these other fights, I mean, look at these strikes that he's absorbing throughout his career. Lord knows, man. And the straight punches have been a problem with Jean Matsumoto, especially someone that's going to throw a 1-1-2 or even just a 1-2 from Farid Basharat. That was landing. Okay? I'm worried for John. I'm picking him here. I'm a big Jean Matsumoto fan. Going into this fight, I thought I was going to be picking Beksat because in my head, I'm like, dude, I love John, but this guy is just way too hittable. And I don't know if I'm going to trust his chin against Beksat. And I still don't know if I'm going to trust his chin. And I'm not going to put money on this because I think Jean Matsumoto sitting here at minus 152, implied odds, that's right around a 60% chance. I think that's a little bit too rich for me. I think if there's any value on a side, it's probably Beksat plus 132. And I see some people playing Beksat by KO. I would be cautious just because there's been so many times where these guys that are pretty technical with their striking that can set up knockout shots, they end up winning by decision just by hurting their opponent or landing the better shots for 2 rounds. So I wouldn't play Beksat purely by KO, even though if he wins, I think it is by KO. I could easily see a decision here as well. And you never know with Jean Matsumoto because he will give you a chance to hurt him in almost every single round. So yeah, once again, we know Jean Matsumoto is tough from the amount of shots that he is eating. Another thing, if I'm Beksat, I'm targeting the elbows on Jean Matsumoto because in the Basharat fight and in the fight against Rob Font, the first elbow that landed on this kid split him wide open, right? I also think Nascimento is a guy that could be bleeding out, and Danil Donchenko, another guy that throws a lot of elbows. So if you like blood, this card might end up being one of your favorite cards because Hasanov's another guy, throws great elbows on the ground, and Fiziev's another guy that seems to get very bloody a lot of the time. So we could be seeing a lot of blood on this card. Very weird angle, very weird thing to kind of consider. But hey, if you like blood, look out for it, okay? Just saying. John Matsumoto on the feet, high volume, pretty good chin, head movement. I don't know how I feel about it because it looks good at times and it looks horrible at the other times. He gets caught with a bunch of straight punches. Bekzat has good straight punches. He has very good power. He's shown good takedown defense, but I think John will still get takedowns in this fight regardless. I think ultimately, although Bekzat is very powerful, is a very sharp and precise striker at times, I think he's struggled with pressure and more so pressure with the takedown threat. And I think John Matsumoto with this takedown threat, with the volume he's going to be throwing out there, with the different looks he's going to be throwing at Bekzat Almakhan, I think he's going to have success with the low kicks, the body kicks. We saw the kicking game from Umar have success against Bekzat. And I am kind of debating not making this point because on paper it sounds crazy. But the way that Alejandro Topuria ended up finding some of his takedowns where he's pressuring Bekzat Almakhan, Bekzat's getting a little bit too, not reliant, but a little bit too worried about the striking, and then he dips down and finds the takedowns. I think John Matsumoto has done that multiple times throughout his career. He pressures you with his volume. He's closing in, and right as you think he's going to throw an overhand, he dips down, finds a leg, and pushes a pace. And I think ultimately we've seen Bekzat fade, and if John survives early, he should be able to bank the last 2 rounds here. And I think he could be live for a round 3 finish, but I don't think Bekzat is going to fall off a cliff that much. Now, although I think John Matsumoto will land some takedowns, I think Bekzat will stuff a majority. And when he does get taken down, he's going to be able to get right back up to the feet because John Matsumoto's not the greatest at controlling people. And Bekzat, he does have very good scrambles, and he was very impressive in the defensive grappling to a certain degree against an Umar Magomedov. Yes, I know he dropped an Umar, and if you want to just do that, you want to look at his good moments and pick him over John Matsumoto, I don't blame you, right? You can find some good moments for John, and you can find some low-level ones for John. Ultimately, John does get hurt. He is susceptible to straight punches. I just think his ability to fight out of bull stances, getting the kicking game going, I do believe that he'll be able to pressure Bekzat Almakhan not only with his volume, but with the takedown threat. I think the two things work together very well. And with the takedowns that he can find, shooting into the clinch, whatever, I think he'll be able to survive the first round. He'll probably lose it. I'll say Bekzat gets the first round on 2 judges' scorecards. Maybe Jean gets it on another. Bekzat has the bigger moment. Jean has the more volume, lands a couple of takedowns. And from there, John Matsumoto banks the last 2 rounds with the clearest round of this fight being their 3rd round. I'm very excited for this fight. Bekzat is live. If you're betting aside, I would bet Bekzat, and I wouldn't play just purely KO unless it's very good value. But I think decision is live for Bekzat as well. Moving on to the next fight of the card, Danil Donchenko versus Theodore Berggren. Theodore is not horrible. Okay, now this doesn't look great, and I'm not sure this is a great fighter, but regardless, he still has some good tools. And what I see from him on the feet is he's a fighter that is pretty long, pretty rangy, but he's decently tight. He throws great punches, straight punches. He's got good low kicks. He can fight audible stances. He's got a good kicking game. But is there anything incredibly dynamic about him? I wouldn't say so. I think he's shown some holes when it comes to his takedown defense. And to me, I think Danil Donchenko is the best fighter coming off tough in quite some time. And I've been a big believer of him. And now everyone wants to hate on him because he didn't finish Alex Morono. What it was is he hurt Alex Morono bad, really pushed for the finish, and then slowed down. And this is a thing that has happened to many fighters, okay? It's somewhat normal. And even then, he still won round 2 and round 3 and hurt Morono multiple times in round 3. Was it the most impressive performance? No. But was it a fraud check? By any means, no. Okay, Danil is a good fighter. He's got good kicks. He's got stellar boxing. He's got good power, seems to have a good chin, and he kind of fights weirdly similarly to Rafael Fiziev. Another funny thing to note is Rafael Fiziev does train with him along with Yaroslav Amosov. So if you're big on iron sharpens iron, this is potentially a case. Now, I heard that from the UFC broadcast watching one of his fights, so double check that, but that's what I heard. I think this guy is really cool to watch. I think he's got good boxing. I think he's got the better boxing. I think he can take this fight down to the ground if it's really being a problem for him on the feet, the movement of Theodore Berggren. And Theodore is taking this on short notice across the world. And while he may be UFC level, if he continues to develop his takedown defense, we haven't seen it this far. I think Daniil can find a takedown if he wants. I think round one, Theodore is going to be landing some good low kicks, doing well from range, maybe getting clipped by a shot, and Daniil edges it out. I could even see Daniil finding a takedown. And where he finds takedowns are up against the cage, which is where Theodore has struggled in the past, even though having a pretty good initial sprawl. Regardless, I'm going Daniil Donchenko, round 2 KO. I think Theodore extends this fight a little bit. People are going to be calling Daniil a little bit of a fraud. Daniil's going to build into it, find a nice KO. Round 2, I think he is the better boxing. Overall, just a better striker. But Theodore is a tricky guy that probably can be hard to finish on the feet and has some power as well. So I'm going Daniil. I wouldn't bet him on the money line. Once again, I think Theodore is tricky, but in a short notice matchup, I'm not really going to be considering that. And there are still some holes in Theodore's game as well. So we'll see. Moving on to the next fight of the card, we have Khan Ofli versus Javier Reyes, one of the better nicknames in the UFC coming from Mr. Genghis Khan Ofli. Now, I think these guys both aren't fantastic. I'm not super excited about this fight. I thought Khan Ofli lost against Yiza. You can rewatch that fight, do what you want, what am I trying to say? Go rewatch it for yourself and see who you thought won that fight. Regardless, Khan Ofli got dropped and hurt multiple times. He's been hurt multiple times throughout the UFC. And I think Javier Reyes is fraudulent, and I think he will get KO'd and fraud checked pretty bad at some point. But I think a lot of people expect that. And to me, he's a future fade. But when he's got a 7-inch reach advantage, he's pretty well-rounded, should be able to stuff the takedowns from Khan Ofli. I'm just not going to trust that Khan Ofli is going to land a big shot on the feet, even though Reyes can be hittable. He did get dropped by Douglas Silva de Andrade. It's just one of those things where Reyes, I'm not going to say he's like a shitty Vinicius Oliveira, but there's a certain degree of where both of them aren't technical and they'll just start dogging their way through fights. And just for that reason alone, I've seen him stuff some good takedowns. I think he can potentially build into this fight, even though Khan has some good cardio. I just think Khan's going to eat enough shots closing the range here, and I don't see Khan landing the takedowns, and I edge Javier Reyes on the feet. Being well-rounded, not great everywhere, but he has good athletic attributes on top of some good cardio and just being a dog, so I could see him winning this one. Almost pick Khan. I think if you're betting aside, Khan is the value. I'm giving Javier like a 52-53% chance to win this fight. Once again, another close competitive matchup. Javier Reyes will be a fade in the future. If I'm cheering for something, I'm cheering for Javier Reyes to find a KO early so that we can fade him and get better odds against him in the future. But maybe he improves. Once again, I think he's the younger fighter, newer to MMA. So we'll see how that works. Next thing I will mention is I'm going to be picking Javier Reyes by a 29-28 decision. I think Khan might actually have a moment in one of these rounds, but both of them are pretty tough. I do think that even though both these guys might get hurt, and this could be a very fun fight, both of them are durable enough to where I think that this can make it to a decision. So it could be a very fun fight, could potentially be boring, could be over early. So I could see a lot of different outcomes. I don't think I'm going to be betting this fight, but I'm going to go with Javier Reyes, 29-28, competitive, fun decision. Moving on to the next fight of the card, Nursultan Ruziboev versus Andre Pulyaev. This is going to be everyone's least favorite pick on this card. All right. And let me tell you what we're going to see Saturday morning, okay? You're going to have Nursultan Ruziboev hitting him. He's going to come out. He's going to go a little, us, 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 us. And then Pulyaev, dush, 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 us, us, dush, dush. Round 3 KO. I might be fucking delusional here. And I promise you, this is not just because he survived a Teba Gautier, right? I think he has tough tools. He has the reach advantage, okay? Now, Nursultan has been at a reach disadvantage before in the Eric McConaughey fight. I understand that. Eric McConaughey was 5 inches shorter. Pulyaev is only an inch shorter with 2.5 inches in reach advantage, and I think that's going to be a problem for Nursultan Ruziboev, who kind of likes the pressure, but he can be low volume at range. Everyone likes to just say this guy's a great wrestler, but they haven't really watched his fights on the regional scene. Coming into the UFC, I was kind of out on this guy. I thought Bruno Ferriera was potentially going to take him down and have some success with grappling in his debut. Now, he finished Bruno Ferriera in the first round, and where I will give Nursultan Ruziboev credit is he is a tall guy, and for his frame, he's pretty quick. He's pretty powerful as well, and he has a good submission game. But there are enough holes to where I feel like Andre Pulyaev is being massively underrated, and I'm going to talk about some of Pulyaev's performances as well. But I've been thinking that he's had a good chance to win this fight. He's been underrated for some time, not just because he survived a Teba Gautier. And I went back and I watched the tape, and I was expecting to pick Ruziboev and then just fade. And then I just fucking last minute, man, I sacked up, and I'm picking Pulyaev by round 3 KO. So let me just tell you what I see with Nursultan Ruziboev in the UFC. I hammered Buckley over him, by the way. That was a 50-unit bet. One of my bigger bets in the UFC. Granted, I was already up like 30 units on the day, so a little bit of a compound interest kind of thing. But I was really confident Buckley was going to win that fight. I said Buckley could out-grapple him if he wanted to. People told me I was crazy, and I said Buckley's the better striker. If he doesn't get punched on the feet, obviously, that's a fucking great breakdown. But if he's not getting sniped on the feet against a guy like Nursultan Ruziboev, he should get this one done. And I'm not even the biggest Buckley guy, okay? Now, hand up here, I picked Stoltzfus over Ruziboev. You can say that's a bad pick. Dustin Stoltzfus dropped him in round 1. And in round 2, the reason why I picked Dustin Stoltzfus is because I thought he'd shoot takedowns and Ruziboev would be fine going on bottom. If you go through here, you see the last name Ruziboev, you look at the face, you look at Uzbekistan, and you see all these submission wins. You're very impressed. But I promise you, if you go back and you watch the regional fights that I've watched, a lot of these submissions are coming off his back. Why? Because he has no problem getting taken down and then looking for subs off his back for an entire round. One thing he has improved on, where I will give him credit, is when he's losing around for a large period of time, he's now a little bit more urgent of getting back up to the feet, as shown in the Dustin Stoltzfus fight. And sure, you can say Dustin Stoltzfus was a bad pick. Dude, in round 2, Stoltzfus shoots in on a takedown instead of defending it. This guy rolls for Kimura, ends up on bottom. Stoltzfus gets 2 minutes of control time. And then when Ruziboev goes and he's looking for a scramble, Stoltzfus decides to go for a guillotine and ends up on bottom because of that. Now, if Stoltzfus is just prioritizing control, trying to control him throughout the rest of that round and then win by decision, and maybe it's a better grappler, someone better than Stoltzfus, who I wasn't even high on going into that matchup. I just thought Stoltzfus is going to shoot takedowns. Ruziboev is going to be all confident that he can find the submission off his back, and he's not going to find him at the UFC level, and from there, he's going to lose a decision. So that's why I picked Stoltzfus. Ultimately, Ruziboev showed a little bit more urgency to get back up to the feet, which was an improvement that I do like to see, but I still have questions about him, right? Why, when we look at this, when he has gone to 10 decisions, has he lost 7 of them? He has cardio issues, okay? When it comes to his wrestling and all these submission wins, he's getting taken down by your fucking local mailman named Joe, okay? The Costco clerk is taking this guy down if you go back and you want to look into all these fights. Now he's finishing them by submission, but he should be able to. If you look at these opponents in the octagon that he's facing, you're like, all right, dude, anyone that's 6'5", has powerful hands and the reach that he has and the submission game that he has should be finishing these guys in the first round. This is a super stat padded record with 9 wins. This is a red flag to me. I think he's been facing bad competition, and I'm going to get into the style breakdown as well, but I'm just saying, hey, I don't look at this as a super experienced fighter, and he has the ability to beat anybody, potentially fluke anybody, but like Teba Gautier, I'm putting at minimum minus 300 over this guy. If he was minus 300, I'd probably bet him over Teba Gautier. I think CLD probably smokes this guy. And these are these performances from Pulyaev are impressive. Now, he's looked good in his performances against Makhaniko, against Cedric Dumas, and I don't really think this fight would play out the same exact way if there was a rematch. Regardless, I'm not super high on Ferriera, but I think Ferriera could potentially win a rematch. Problem is the frame kind of is a weird matchup. But this is the tallest guy that he's been facing. Cedric, you can say, is 6'2" with the biggest reach. It's fucking Cedric Dumas. Pulyaev is above these guys. I truly do believe so. I think his takedown defense is underrated. And I think at range, he's going to have tools that Ruziboev has not ran into yet throughout his career. Okay? And maybe I'm biased against Ruziboev because I saw him on the regional scene and I really could not get the hype. And I was pushing this take so early that I can't see past the adjustments and the improvements of his game that he's made. But ultimately, there's no one that he's beaten that makes me think he really has made these improvements. And I might be jumping the gun here too early, but I'm picking Pulyaev. I threw a unit on him. On the feet, if I'm describing Nursultan Ruziboev, what I don't like about him is he's not very good at extending combinations. When he throws hooks, they come from a low angle. His chin does not move off the center line. When he throws that 1-2, he constantly overextends on it, which leads him over to takedowns. Stoltzfus found a takedown on this, by the way, in round 3. And that, once again, he's getting controlled for 2 minutes in round 3 and round 2. Like, this was a much closer fight than people remember. And if you just click on Stoltzfus right here, I don't think anyone's saying Stoltzfus is this fucking fantastic fighter. You can say he's underrated because he did this, but that's about it, dude. Like, what has Stoltzfus really done to make me think that he should be having a close fight with the Nursultan Ruziboev, and then Nursultan deserves minus 200 over Pulyaev? Different stylistic matchups, but on the feet, Nursultan, I don't think he really scores that well from range. He has a good 1-2, but I see him consistently overextending on it. From Pulyaev, I've seen underrated head movement, and all 4 of his performances. That fight on the Contender Series showed me he has good takedown defense. When I've watched the takedown entries from Nursultan, I really haven't been that wowed by them. Okay? And ultimately, the fact that fights have gone to a decision, and we're looking at Pulyaev, who has survived good grapplers on the ground, has shown a good ability to get back up to his feet and make his opponents work, who has shown a good ability to survive more dangerous fighters on the feet than a Nursultan Ruziboev, like an Ateba Gautier, like a CLD. And CLD also has good underrated takedowns of his own. He cannot get Pulyaev down. Let's go through the stats of this fight. This fight breakdown's probably going a little bit too far, but you just got to hear me out. When I pick an underdog, I like to state my reasoning, and I could be delusional. We'll talk about this fight. I understand the big 4 takedowns right there is not fantastic, but CLD probably shot like 4 takedowns. Oh, he shot 2 takedowns. Okay, whatever. Wasn't able to get him. Good takedown defense from Andre Pulyaev, despite the challenges on the feet for CLD. 18 strikes, I don't think necessarily shows how much resistance he did show CLD. I think he had some good counters, some underrated counters in that matchup. CLD is just a good fighter who is a lot tougher. So you can say I'm picking a guy who's a good loser, but I would look at these fights and I changed my pitch, right? I looked at this fight. I was like, okay, you know what? Nick Klein's getting him down. This is over. Ruziboev probably takes him down and submits him. But then I thought about it. I'm like, when he gets taken down, he's very good at getting back up immediately. And I think if he gets taken down, it will be hard for Ruziboev to hold him down. And he'll be able to get back up, causing Ruziboev to work. And I trust him to survive until late because he's shown a good chin. He's shown good striking defense. And he's shown a good ability to survive on the ground. And when he's getting back up from these takedowns, he's putting on the pressure, pouring on long boxing combinations. Look at the Nick Klein fight. Look at his Contender Series fight where he stuffed a few takedowns. 5 takedowns here, and then immediately starts putting on the pressure, starts extending combinations. His boxing is much better than I expected. I think he is the better boxing in this matchup. I think potentially, as long as he's staying away from that 1-2 from Ruziboev, he's going to be scoring better at range, and I think the low kicks from him, and I think the body kicks from him are going to be a problem for a guy like Ruziboev. And Ruziboev is also a guy that can be very low volume at range. Like, you can look at this fight too, like round 1. This is not good volume, and I could see him eating these body kicks, getting behind on the scorecards, and then rushing in, pushing into Andre Pulyaev, who is comfortable off the back foot, can cut around and find different angles as well, and ultimately has survived more dangerous fighters on the feet. And I think he is underrated, crafty boxing, potentially can find some counters against Nursultan Ruziboev, who when he is exiting from these 1-2 shots that he's looking for trying to find the KO, I think his chin is wide open. So I've probably been breaking down this fight for like fucking 10 minutes now. Let me go to fucking, how long has this been lasting? I'm trying to see. Okay, 28 minutes deep. That's not the worst thing on earth. Okay, I can speed up, but I wanted to spend some time on this. Ultimately, I think he's got underrated takedown defense. I went through Nick Klein's career. I watched all these fights. I thought Nick Klein's takedown entries were horrible. I rewatched and I changed my pitch. Okay, like they're not that bad. He's not bad at timing them. He's a strong guy, has a decent amount of athleticism to go and find these takedowns. And I would argue Pulyaev was better about getting back up to the feet and not getting controlled than a Mansur Abdul Malik than a Nick Klein, who got taken down 4 times, yes, but was controlled ultimately for 4 minutes, 45 seconds, and a decent bit of that was in the clinch. Whereas if you go here with Mansur Abdul Malik, 1 takedown led to 3 minutes of control. So do with that what you will. I think he's a guy that is going to keep Nursultan Ruziboev working, and if he's not getting finished, as this fight goes on, I don't trust Nursultan Ruziboev's cardio in round 3. Like, I just don't. You've seen it here. I think it's a matter of time before he fights a precise striker. And Andre Pulyaev is not the most precise guy. He's at a speed disadvantage here. He's at a power disadvantage, but he has underrated power as well. Like, he's got 6 KOs throughout his career. Okay? And like some of these fucking shots that he's landing on people and building into fights in certain ways, I wasn't expecting that from him. This guy is a dog. I didn't know he was a dog. I think he's going to build in this fight, land some more volume. And when it comes to who's the tougher fighter, who's more of a dog, if it becomes that type of fight, I think Pulyaev could be that guy. I ultimately think he has tools at range that will make Nursultan struggle. And if Nursultan's not finding the takedowns, this will be a very tough fight for a guy like Nursultan, who's going to have to work hard. And even if he is finding the takedowns, I think Pulyaev is so good at getting back up to the feet and not getting controlled that's going to make Nursultan work enough to where he's going to gas out and either slowly lose this by decision or gas out hard enough to where he's going to get finished in round 3. And now going into this, I can recognize his takedown defense maybe isn't pristine. I think it's underrated, and I think Nursultan's takedown entries have been overrated just because he did a little bit of wrestling back in the day. His last name, how he looks, and on paper, how people describe this guy is like a beautiful, beautiful wrestler, beautiful, beautiful grappler. And I definitely think he's got a good submission game. That's where I will give him credit, but I think, like, oddly enough, he's more confident off of his back. So he's got weird power. Can he KO Andre Pulyaev? Yes. Could the reach and the quickness from range be a big problem for Andre Pulyaev? Yes. But I've also seen good head movement and a good ability to evade massive shots from other strikers. Yes, has he gotten rocked at times, but he's got a good chin. I think he survives. And ultimately, I've also said this too, Nursultan's the type of guy to hurt someone and then blow his load trying to finish them. So before I was thinking Pulyaev, his method of victory was squeaking this one out by decision at range and probably getting clipped a few times, not being that good. His striking defense is even better than I remembered. And his takedown defense and the ability to get back up to the feet was better than I remembered. So I think that he'll make Nursultan really work. And if this fight is at range for 3 rounds, to me, I think Pulyaev probably could edge it out. So I think he is more past the victory than I originally considered. So I'm picking him here. And I've broken down this fight for too long. I understand both sides. I'm giving Pulyaev a 50% chance to win this fight based off everything I just said. Take what I said with a grain of salt. But once again, let's do it, man. He's getting it done. Douche. All right. Next fight of the card. Abdulrahman Yakhyaev versus Julius Walker. I'm picking Abdulrahman Yakhyaev. All right. Holy fuck, man. I cannot click for shit, bud. All right. I'm picking Abdulrahman Yakhyaev. Julius Walker, he has some power. Could he bring some problems on the feet? Probably not. But he's had bad performances. Like, this was a horrible performance against Dustin Jacoby. I knew Jacoby was going to beat his ass, put some belt on him. And Menafield is not that good. That made me feel worse about Menafield than better for Julius Walker. I think Julius Walker's not that good. I think his striking defense is pretty poor. And when it comes to Abdulrahman Yakhyaev, he's got good power. He's got good submissions. For a light heavyweight, I do like his takedown entries. And he's a physically imposing guy. We'll see if his chin gets tested. But I think he can find the takedowns. I'm picking him by round 1 submission. But also, Julius Walker is hittable enough where if he's getting clipped by Abdul absolutely can find this by a round 1 KO. With Abdul, what I will say, weigh-in minus 600 feels a little bit wide. If you go back and you watch some of his tape on the regional scene, some of these low kicks he's throwing just look like red flags to me. But we'll see. There's some other punches he throws where striking defense might not be all that good. At the light heavyweight division, I don't think that's going to be punished. I think he's physically imposing enough, athletic enough, quick enough hands, good enough entries, enough options in this fight where you should be able to run through Julius Walker. But minus 600, that's like a fucking, what is that? 600 divided by 700. That's a 85.7% chance to get that done in the debut, where I've seen him throw some pretty ugly low kicks and then throw shots a little bit wide. I don't know how live Julius Walker could be for a finish because Walker doesn't necessarily age well in the fights either. But I'm just not going to play this. I might play Yakhyaev round 1 finish. I think that's right around minus 130. I think that's probably the better play. Okay. Moving on to the next fight of the card. Also, I think he's a good prospect for the light heavyweight division. And these holes will not be exposed to the top. This is how it works with these higher weight classes, much less skilled and a little bit more sloppy. So ultimately, these problems that he has probably won't catch up to him until a little bit later in his career. Moving on to the next fight of the card, Farman Hasanov versus Eric Nolan. I'm picking Farman Hasanov. All right. He's definitely a headhunter on the feet. He's a little bit plotty. Nothing special on the feet, but I actually do like his takedown entries. And if he takes down Eric Nolan, I think he's going to have a lot of success with the ground and pound, potentially finding a TKO. I'm saying round 2 TKO. That's my pick. But Eric Nolan, I will say, he's got some good power. He's got some good boxing. Obviously, he had the moment against Sadykhov, and everyone's going to probably overreact to that, in my opinion. I don't think Farman's all that, but the one thing I will say between these two guys, my favorite attribute from either one of these fighters is probably the takedown entries from Farman Hasanov. Is it the greatest thing that I've seen? No, but It's athletic, it's physically imposing, and the reason why it works is because he is headhunting on the feet. He does have good power on the feet that you have to respect, and I think that plays into his ability to find takedowns as well. There was like one pretty athletic switch he hit. Now, is he the greatest chain wrestler? No, but with the power that he has in his hands, combined with the takedown threat, I think we've already seen Eric Nolan immediately end up on the back foot against a guy like Alonzo Turner, where if you look at this guy is like an absolute fucking bowling ball. Super small, 5'8". Eric Nolan, 6'2". And Alonzo Turner, just from a takedown threat, and nothing else. Granted, 7-2 is not a bad record now. If you go back and you rewatch that fight, I don't think Alonzo Turner's all that good. Alonzo Turner's pressuring him from the get-go. I think being pressured against a guy like Farman, who has good power, who has pretty good takedown entries, right? The way I described his takedown entries made it seem like this guy's fucking Khabib. That's not the fucking case here, but I think he will be able to get a guy like Eric Nolan down. And as this fight extends, we'll kind of see. We haven't seen too much from the cardio side of Farman. I just think if he's getting down Eric Nolan, the fight could be over. And if this fight extends and Eric Nolan's stuffing the takedowns, he probably can get it done. But even then, like, there's holes in the striking from Eric Nolan that just makes me very reluctant to kind of want to bet his side. He has no calf kick defense for anything. And a lot of these guys that he beat before getting the Yakhyaev fight, like the Blaine Richards fight, the Trevor Goudet fight, I want to say. There was one other one I watched, I want to say. Let me see. Yeah, maybe it was this guy. Once again. Everyone that loses to him seems to just go on a fucking losing streak afterwards, by the way. Like 6-2 to 10-4. Like, some of these fighters are really bad. It just seems like he doesn't find his range early. I think Farman, with the power threat, as I said, will be able to set up his takedowns. And when he finds takedowns, probably find some good ground and pound. That's one of his best attributes, but he could blow his load early. We'll see how he fares into a decision. I don't know. I think he's a headhunter, the worst striker, and Nolan has good power. So I think these odds are pretty fair. I'm not going to play either side. I might look at Farman inside the distance, but that was like plus 1,000, well, plus 100. So I don't know necessarily how I feel about that yet. Moving on to the next fight of the card. Someone's calling me. I don't know who that is. Moving on to the next fight of the card. We got Abus Magomedov versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. I hate my pick here, but I'm picking Abus Magomedov. Let me go back here. I'm trying to see how deep this video is. Okay, we're 38 minutes in. I'm going to speed this one up, give you some quicker predictions. But I'm picking Abus Magomedov. I hate my pick. He's a little bit of just a soft fighter, man. Like, when he slows down and his cardio is going out the window, he just completely changes and he looks horrible. And if you're watching just third rounds of his career, you're picking Mikhail. Now, if you're watching just first rounds of his career, you're betting Abus, okay? It's the in-between that I'm worried about, you know? Abus said he got the same surgery that DDP got that supposedly massively improved DDP's cardio. Granted, I always thought DDP's cardio was a little bit underrated. Abus is one of those where it's like, this dude can't really push. Some people are arguing that he looks better in the third round of his fights, but if you actually go into it and you break down the fights, yes, the output was better in round 3 against Pereira than his other fights. He looked gassed out in this round, okay? And not only that, these first 2 rounds were a decently low output. So, I don't know. I think he can find the takedowns. Mikhail has shown to be prone to takedowns. Abus has a good striking threat to where I think he can use both tools to kind of have success and benefit the other, if that kind of makes sense. I think like the takedown threat will help the striking will help with his takedown threat. Vice versa, his takedowns, whatever the fuck you want to call it, whatever. Okay? And Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is very open to the body. He's at a reach disadvantage. Abus is a big guy. He fights well out of both stances. That kicks to the body, I think, will be money for Abus. I think they're going to land a lot. And if Mikhail's not really finding this finish early, he could find it late. So that's the thing. I don't fucking know. You know, people are going to say Mikhail faded against Marc-Andre Barrios. It's because he went heavy for the finish. And then eventually he dogged his way through and found his way back into the fight, won it. But I don't think his cardio is as bad as Abus. Now, if Abus is getting the grappling going, then Mikhail can't slow down. I'm not big on who Mikhail has been recently. And I'm just allowing myself to think that, hey, you know, Abus has had some great moments against good fighters, such as Joe Pyfer, such as Sean Strickland. And yeah, I don't know. He's just a good one-round fighter. I think he's the more technical guy. And I do think that just based off the tools that he has in round 1. He should be doing well. And like, maybe he has improved his cardio, you know? Maybe. I'm not betting him. I thought I was going to bet him. I rewatched the tape, man. Mikhail could just fucking snipe him. And I hate that I'm picking Abus, but we're going with that. Round 2 submission, actually, is what I'm going to go with. He's going to find a takedown at some point. Mikhail's going to try to get back up to the feet and get subbed. Mikhail could fully KO him, though. Would not be surprised. Don't bet Abus, man. Betting Abus is just a fucking guaranteed cortisol spike. Moving on to the next fight of the card. Bruno Ferriera versus Ikram Aliskerov. I'm going to be going with Ikram Aliskerov. I'm going to pick round 2 KO. I'm just a round 2 demon today, aren't I? Fucking hell, bud. Bruno's good. Okay. He is good. Maybe not. I don't know. I've never been super high on Bruno. He has good power on the feet. He is a pretty high level when it comes to judo. I want to say he's a black belt. He has very good jiu-jitsu. I think he's a black belt as well, potentially. Maybe he won some IBJFF World Championships as well. But Ikram, to me, I think if he's smart, he's not going to be scared of this. He's going to take the fight down to the ground. We've seen Abus Magomedov do this and have success. Ikram's a better wrestler. He should take this fight down to the ground, land some punches on the ground, try to get a sub potentially. I think eventually round 2 TKO will come around. Ikram is very good on the ground. If he's getting this fight down to the ground and getting Bruno in some bad positions, I think he'll be able to damage him and slowly wear on him and slowly tire Bruno Ferriera out and make him work a lot on the ground defensively, okay? Now on the feet, if Bruno stuffs the takedowns or Ikram is just scared of the submission game from Bruno, which is a bad game plan, I think, first off, Ikram doesn't have the greatest chin. And sometimes the way he blitzes in is kind of Bo Nickel-esque, where it's like quick in, quick out, but it does feel like if someone's timing a straight right down the pipe, then boom, Ikram could go out. He's been timed with 2 uppercuts throughout his career, but both of them have been high-level fighters, Khamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker, but it's both been from an uppercut. So if I'm Bruno, I'm looking for the uppercut, maybe trying to time it on the takedown, and I'm trying to keep this fight on the feet no matter what. But hey, I think Ikram's smart enough to take this fight down to the ground, not being too afraid of the submission game from Bruno. I'd feel pretty confident in that. And even on the feet, he's pretty good. I think he knows to stay away from the danger, and he's going to mitigate his risk here because he's fighting a dangerous fighter, and he has advantages against him in multiple ways. So I'm going round 2 KO. I think the odds here maybe slight value on Bruno, but everyone picking Bruno, I don't necessarily see it. I think more times than not, Ikram should win this with a good game plan. And these Dagestani guys tend to have very good game plans. And he's training with Khabib too, I think. So moving on to the next fight of the card, Almabayev versus Charles Johnson. A lot of people picking Charles Johnson, showing him love. I can understand it, okay? I'm picking Almabayev. I think these odds are fair. Maybe I'd put Asu more towards like minus 220-ish range. But betting Charles Johnson against grapplers is certainly a choice at this point in his career, okay? You can look at it as, hey, he's gone out there, fantastic performance, beating Kavanaugh, beating Van. But you also got to look at these performances against Cody Durden, a pressure grappler, against Mokaev, a guy that's going to shoot multiple takedowns, against Rafael Estevam. I'm very low on Rafael Estevam. I think he's got horrible cardio. Everyone talks about Charles' ability to build into fights, find shots in round 3. How are you not finishing Rafael Estevam in round 3? Ladies and gentlemen, please go back and watch this fight. He had this guy panic shooting, couldn't keep him off of him, and could not find the shots, didn't sit down on the shots. I get it. He still landed 54 shots to the dome piece of Estevam. But in my opinion, dude, if I'm going to trust you to beat Almabayev, who I think has a better chin, has better cardio, has better wrestling than an Estevam, you got to be finishing Estevam in round 3, who I don't even think has necessarily great takedown entries. I think Asu's a better wrestler, as I said, has better chain wrestling, and is very stubborn with his wrestling and can go 3 rounds, shoot a shit ton of takedowns. Look at this Ochoa fight. He shot fucking 16 takedowns with no problem. And Ochoa's a very dangerous striker, right? He's another tall, dangerous guy. Alex Perez, you could say, was having some success. I think Perez has been underrated for some time. But on the scorecards, I'm going to double check this. Perez versus Almabayev. I think Almabayev was tied 1-1, even though everyone says he was on his way to getting fraud checked. He came back, he found a submission, did what he needed to do. And maybe if I typed in scorecards, that'd fucking help. Jeez, man. It's been a long day. Okay. Dude, you know what? Like, fuck this bullshit. I can't spell for shit, man. I am pretty confident that he was tied 1-1 on the judges' scorecards going into round 3. Almabayev. What the fuck am I typing? Almabayev. Okay, sorry guys, we're spending too much time on this. Okay. No? Okay. Yeah. All 3 judges had it 1-1. So, regardless of how you scored it, he was on his way to win that 3rd round if it went to a decision. I don't think it was as bad of a fraud check as people think. I still think Alex Perez is very underrated. Alex Perez actually going out there and doing Charles Johnson pretty bad. So that's another thing that you can mention if you're in the big MMA math. Styles make fights, obviously, but I think Almabayev is going to shoot a lot of takedowns. Charles Johnson's not going to be able to create range. Charles Johnson probably has the cardio to stay alive and maybe do something in round 3. I just think Asu's shown good cardio. I think he's shown his ability to stay stubborn and look for takedowns. Losing to Manel Kape is not a bad loss. I think Manel Kape is the best fighter in the division. Okay? Fair play to the kid, Asu Almabayev, all right? Minus 250, minus 220. I wouldn't play it. I understand Charles Johnson can build into fights, and he has a good ability to get back up, and maybe that creates some things. But Ochoa fought that fight pretty well. I don't think Charles Johnson's getting it done, seeing what we did. Like, you can't be losing to Cody Durden and have me picking you over Almabayev. You got 30-27 by Durden, right? Okay. I'm going to be pissed if Charles Johnson's leaving this. Dude, I'm the best 5-round fighter in the universe, man. Shut the fuck up and win a 3-round fight, okay? Moving on to the next fight of the card. Matsumoto Camilo versus Nazim Sadykhov. I'm not betting Sadykhov. I have bet him very well throughout his career, okay? I'm going to say that much. Well, maybe not perfectly, but I took Pulyaev as an underdog, who looked like a great underdog. Won 2 of the rounds in the striking, did much better at the grappling than most people. A lot of people that were picking Sadykhov were like, holy shit, dude. We were not expecting that, okay? I picked him as an underdog. I'd bet him again. I think that was the right side to be on. I hammered him against McKinney, Sadykhov, and I also bet Evan Elder against him. And if you rewatch that fight, Evan Elder was doing very good. Very good. Was a big favorite until that cut opened up and they stopped it with a doctor stoppage. Once again, I think I picked the right side to be on every fight throughout his career. I picked him against Ishmael Bonfim. Made a lot of money there. I faded this matchup. I said Nicholas Mata is a guy who has an underrated chin. Sadykhov is a guy that can get hit, and Mata with the power can absolutely hurt him and create some big moments. And he was like minus 400, minus 450 over him. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, Mata is like no slouch in the pocket. He absolutely can sleep people. And I think prior to that, he even had like a win over a Tom Nolan, right? And people were just out here overlooking Mata. Now everyone likes him, but my prediction was like, this is going to get tough early, and then Sadykhov's going to come on later. And then I hammered Ziam over him. So for the most part, I think I have a pretty damn good read on Sadykhov. I think I've been on every right side throughout his career. And here, once again, I'm fading. And I think Camilo is probably a little bit tougher for him than Amata, simply for the reason of Camilo can land takedowns. I know that's groundbreaking shit for people that look at people with the last name and see that he's from Azerbaijan and immediately assume that he's got great counter grappling, but he's been taken down multiple times. This Ahmad Hassanzada guy really is not that good when it comes to his grappling. I don't love his takedowns, but he got him down twice. Evan Elder failed a decent bit of takedowns, but he's been taken down multiple times is my point. Terrence McKinney went 2 of 5, went 2 of 3 in the first round, controlled him if you remember that, and then began to gas and then lost that fight, okay? He can get taken down. We saw it in this matchup. People acted like it wasn't the case. He's got good striking, but he is hittable on the feet. His boxing, to some degree, is a little bit questionable at times. And Matsumoto Camilo does hit like a fucking truck. You can look at this Gabe Green loss and be like, oh, dude, how are you losing to Gabe Green in the big 2025? Which is fair to say, but he was dominating that fight. He was landing takedowns, and then he got caught in a weird scramble after having the back of Gabe Green, got his back took, and then got submitted with a rear naked choke, which is a very underrated comeback performance, right? Against Pulyaev. Pulyaev was looking very good against Camilo, and Camilo's cardio was starting to fade, and then Camilo ends up finding the right shots to hurt Pulyaev and then take this fight to the decision with the victory royale. So, I don't know. I'm not that high on Pulyaev. I think that was a worse version of Pulyaev that fought Camilo than the one that fought Sadykhov. But still, I don't think it was that massive of a drop-off. I don't think he was as washed as he looked in his fight after that against, well, maybe that was his last fight. Yeah, he just did not look that good. Pulyaev, okay, maybe I'm yapping here, but I don't know. I didn't think it was the same level of Pulyaev that fought Sadykhov. The thing about Camilo is he's going to have a takedown threat in this matchup. He has good takedowns. He's not a guy you want to get taken down by. If you go through his resume, got a few submission wins, got a few KO wins. He's got power. He has a submission ability. He has the ability to find takedowns on good grapplers. If you go back, watch some fights in the regional scene, he's not a bad fighter. He does struggle with cardio issues. And ultimately, although I can see him having some success early, whether it's a takedown, whether it's a big shot, I think Nazim Sadykhov is a guy that is hard to control, right? Unless you're a Terrence McKinney, who I do like to hate on Terrence McKinney. He is dangerous and a very, very good fighter early. Very physically imposing fighter early. Striking defense is not there, okay? But Mateusz Camilo can find these takedowns with the power threat. He could clip Nazim Sadykhov in the pocket. I think Camilo inside the distance is not a bad play, but ultimately I think Nazim has been working on his takedown defense. I think the kicking game will eventually build into the fight with him. And while I said he has boxing holes defensively, he still doesn't have the worst boxing. I think his cardio will help him in this matchup. Eventually he'll build to like a round 3 KO and a pretty fun fight if he's able to stuff the takedowns or get back up to the feet. But he might be working harder than you expect early on. I just don't trust Camilo's cardio. When it comes down to it, I'm not predicting Camilo to find the finish early, although I think it's very possible. I put Sadykhov right around minus 140, minus 150. I put him minus 140. That's right around a 58% chance. I think that's fair. I think he's being underrated in this matchup. And everyone's just looking at Sadykhov's career and kind of overrating what he's done, right? Good kicking game. Overall, very fun to watch when he's flow stating. I'm cheering for him. I hope he gets it done. Like I said, round 3 KO after Camilo starts slowing down. I'm not super high on Camilo's takedown entries. However, with the power threat on the feet, I think he absolutely can get something going. And it's not like they're the worst things on earth. He's a physically imposing guy. I'd be a little bit scared in this matchup, okay? And if you guys are not looking at this, looking at the apology, seeing 94% of people picking Sadykhov, and he's only sitting here. Everybody on earth's betting him at minus 220. The books are fine with taking this action. I'm just warning you guys, this could be a very scary matchup. Please don't bet him. Moving on to the next fight of the card. Michel Pereira versus Sharon Magomedov. I'll make this one pretty quick. Michel Pereira, I think, is being undervalued in this matchup. You know, plus 300. 25% chance. I give him more like a 30. You know what I mean? I still think Shara wins this. He's good off the back foot, can land good low kicks. Maybe if he gets taken down and Michel works in some grappling, he'll have some success. And if you go back through Michel's career, I mean, there was a point where people were really, really high on him. And he was getting picked a decent bit over a guy like Alexander Hernandez. Now, Abus Magomedov, not that good. This was not the greatest performance. And then Kyle Daukaus. Say what you want about Kyle Daukaus. You can get caught against Kyle Daukaus early. Now, okay, this was the performance that I was really the least impressed by, to be honest with you. I don't think Zach Reese is good. I thought they both looked like shit in this fight. And coming into this, I think Michel Pereira pressuring in to a guy like Shara is going to allow Shara to land a lot of kicks off the back foot, eat up his low kicks, which are going to be open with the stance that Michel Pereira throws. So we're going to see. I don't know. I think Michel might get around on one of the judges' scorecards, might have a big moment. Maybe the knees work. Maybe he lands takedowns and exposes Shara's grappling game a lot. But Shara's been taking a lot of grappling matchups recently. I kind of like that for him. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to go 30-27, two judges' scorecards, 29-28 on another judge's scorecard. He's going to stay on the back foot, switch stance, get his kicking game going early. I do trust Shara Magomedov's chin, even though he did get hurt a little bit by Marc-Andre Barriault, who wasn't that good. Still, I think overall, he's got a pretty fundamental style. Will stay safe. Should be able to stuff the takedowns coming his way. And Michel Pereira's pressure-heavy style, wide stance, will walk into some low kicks, and that's what it'll be. Sharon Magomedov, decision. Next fight on the card, main event. Very, very exciting fight. This video is now running 53 minutes deep. Okay, so that's about fair. We'll wrap this up right around the hour mark. I'm picking Rafael Fiziev. I'm a big fan of Fiziev, and I'm not super confident with him here. Actually, no, I'm going to pause this video. All right, I'm back. Moving on to the main event, Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres. I'm going to be picking Rafael Fiziev in this matchup. I am not confident. I went into this week thinking, I'm picking Fiziev. I'm going to be confident. But I keep coming around more and more to the feeling that Manuel Torres is going to hit him. And Fiziev does have holes when it comes to his defensive game plans at times. He's very open to that straight right. That 1-2 Bahamondes was throwing had a lot of success. But I think he's a much more technical fighter. I think he's going to make Manuel Torres overextend at times. I think Manuel can be a little bit telegraphed, but for a power puncher, he's decently quick. Like, I'll give him credit there. He has the takedown threat if he's really going to try to get that going early. If I was him, I would shoot a takedown early on. Get Fiziev worried about that. Maybe use that to potentially pressure Fiziev. Try to extend some combinations. I'm going to be looking for that 1-2 that he landed against Drew Dober if I were him. But ultimately, I think Fiziev is the more technical striker. While, yes, he is open to the straight right down the pipe, and yes, he just took a lot of damage against Mauricio Rufy. He fights well out of both stances. And maybe he's just the fake technical merchant that has some great tools that looks good. But I do think that he makes good reads, dude. And that fight against Ignacio Bahamondes was very impressive. And he dealt very well with the reach of Ignacio Bahamondes. And Bahamondes looked like he was on a pretty similar speed level to a guy like Manuel Torres. I'm a big fan of both these guys. As I said earlier in the video, I picked Manuel Torres fights extremely well. Here comes my whole rant. I have not picked Fiziev fights very well. So it's a double-edged sword here. But I picked every fight correct. Picked Bahamondes over him. I bet him against Grant Dawson. He's made a lot of money for me in pretty much all of these matchups. I didn't bet him in the Duncan fight, to be fair. But he's made me money in these last 3 matchups. And I've been a pretty big fan of this guy, saying that he's underrated, picking him at every single one of his fights. And he's just been proving me right for the most part. What I see here is he does overextend on his shots. And sometimes the way he throws can be a little bit telegraphed. And to me, Fiziev doesn't have the worst chin. He's not extremely chinny. He's getting clipped by guys with great power. Being able to eat Justin Gaethje's shots and recover still is very impressive. And now when we come here, and I told you I'm not great at predicting his fights, the only one in his past 5 fights I've picked correctly is against Ignacio Bahamondes. I picked him both times against Justin Gaethje. I picked him against Gamrot, and I picked him against Rufy. So maybe I just don't know ball. Maybe he's going to trick me one last time. But dude, like, he just looks so sexy, man. He looks so good at times. I love me some Fiziev. You know, if this guy had more thud on his punches, some fucking nice power, man, he's popping Manuel. And I could trust him to find the KO on Manuel, and Manuel would really respect the power coming back as well. I'm picking Fiziev, but I just don't fucking know with this guy, man. I do think his cardio issues might be a little bit overstated in this matchup. Like in this matchup against Bahamondes, he showed good cardio. He pushed for the takedowns. That's another reason why I am thinking he can win this fight is he can land takedowns on Torres. Like, he gets his takedowns going better than people remember, right? He found a takedown early on against Justin Gaethje. Landed 4 against Bahamondes. I was expecting him to shoot some more against Mauricio Rufy potentially. Let me make sure I'm not. Yeah, like he shot only 1 takedown. I wanted him to maybe work that in a little bit better. But Rufy's so good off the back foot with strong counters that I think it was such a bad matchup for him. And what I was saying going into that fight, Rufy's going to catch him with that straight right counter. And if he doesn't, Fiziev's going to win that fight. And ultimately, I think Fiziev will be able to game plan around it. But he still just got clipped by it multiple times. That jab was money from Rufy. I don't think Torres has the same level of a jab as a Rufy. And I don't think Torres has as precise of a straight right, especially not on the counter. And I think Fiziev, how he fought against Ignacio Bahamondes and fought with the reach, he was a lot more kind of technical, but he was mitigating his risk. He wasn't necessarily pressuring or going into the brawl the same way he did against Justin Gaethje. Maybe I'm just trying to find points at this point to pick Fiziev over Torres. But like, he just looks good, man. In that Bahamondes fight, he dealt with the reach pretty well. Yes, he got clipped by some shots. And yes, it was the 1-2. I think if anything, seeing what Rufy caught him with multiple times would be the time to improve that chink in his armor when it comes to his striking defense. And like I said, I think Manuel Torres is going to miss. And when he's going to miss big. And he throws massive power into a lot of his shots. And if Rafael Fiziev is stuffing his takedowns, which I think is going to happen in my head, and Torres is overextending at shots from range, like he's going to start slowing down right around the end of round 2 if he's not getting Fiziev out of there, which I don't think will be the case. When you go on Tapology too, most people picking Torres. Is he still the underdog? Okay, he's moving, so books respect the action. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fucking Fiziev rider guy die. What the fuck am I saying? Fiziev rider guy die. Fuck! Ride or die guy. That's what I'm trying to say. Holy shit. I fucked it up 3 times. You know, the betting odds, like you got the sharper people on Torres. I'm really, really concerned for this fight. I placed a bet last week on Fiziev, expecting him to feel better as the fight went on as I watched the tape, and I'm telling him he's very underrated. The chinks are still there, and it's really annoying when you're predicting a fighter against such a physically imposing guy like a Torres. Because every time this guy ever gets touched, you're like, fucking hell, Torres is going to get him. I don't know if I feel that Torres is that precise. Torres does like to throw the kicking game, but Fiziev is very good at countering that. I think he's got great takedown defense, and I think he's going to be a lot more cautious at range and not pressuring kind of how he did against Mauricio Houfi, which could lead to his demise and allow Manuel Torres to get his game plan going a little bit. But I think he's going to make Manuel miss. I think he knows the power and the threat that's at his hands early on, and he's going to try to survive and maybe not play into the war, kind of how he did against Justin Gaethje. And it being 5 rounds, I think is going to put him in the right mindset to try and outlast them, try and see the things that are coming, and just kind of try to survive, mixing some takedowns and tire out Manuel Torres early. He's been 5 rounds against RDA, and that's when he's fighting a little bit more low volume. But then again, he still has stuff like 15 takedowns, I want to say. I fucking shouldn't have clicked on him there. That's what I should have done. 16 takedowns, stuffed it, still got the KO in round 3. Granted, it was a lower output fight. And this one, his heart rate's going to be racing early, high cortisol early, but I'm going to be picking Rafael Fiziev. I'm going to say round 3 KO after he makes Manuel Torres miss. And I still think Manuel Torres could be a threat in this lightweight division. I'm just not super high on him in this matchup. I think Fiziev's striking defense is all of a sudden being underrated. But if I'm Manuel, I'm shooting a takedown early. I'm going to try that uppercut a few times because it clipped Fiziev a couple times as well. And I'm throwing that straight right and maybe working in some low kicks. We'll see. But I'm going to be smart about when I'm crashing into. That's the other thing, too, about Manuel Torres. If he's getting beat at range, you never know if he's potentially not going to pressure in and just try to be a physically imposing guy. I think he will. But if this is a fight where he's allowing to take place at range, respecting Fiziev's power and counters a little bit too much, that's going to benefit Rafael Fiziev as well. I think Fiziev is prepared and going into this matchup thinking that he just needs to survive early, and it being a 5-round fight is going to cause him to be on his P's and Q's defensively. So I'm picking him round 3 KO. I'm giving him like a 55% chance to win. I think right around minus 108. Let's do that. 108 divided by 208. If you guys are trying to calculate the percent chance of odds for a favorite, you always go the number plus 100 is the denominator and the actual number in the numerator. So minus 108 is a 51.9% chance. I give him like a 53, 54% chance. I think he's slightly value. I have some money right around a unit on him from earlier in the week, but that was parlayed with Egypt money line just because I was trying to bet on something when it was Father's Day, which actually ended up cashing. Not Egypt money line, Egypt minus 1.5. So I have like 1 unit on Fiziev. If he wins with that parlay, I think it turns to like 3 or 4. So that'd be fucking sick, but I'm not going to play it anything else outside of that. I think I will either post my full betting card on Twitter or potentially at the end of this video, but I think I'm going to do it on Twitter actually. So follow Smeezy MMA, or maybe it's Smeezy Plays. Smeezy MMA on Twitter. I'm going to be posting that there. And yeah, dude, I'm excited for this fight. Again, pretty easy breakdown, man. Manuel's either going to snipe him or he's not. Right? He could absolutely snipe Fiziev in the first round, and I would not be surprised. And Manuel is fucking sick, dude. Very, very fucking sick. Everyone talks about like these Mexican guys that have heart. Manuel's a fucking badass, dude. But once again, facing a more technical striker like a Bahamondes was able to find the counter. I think those will be there for Fiziev as well, but he doesn't have the same power threat as a Bahamondes. So maybe Manuel won't respect him as much, and then that's going to lead to him finding the finish. I'm trying to be better at not just looking at a couple of moments, and then as soon as someone with a remotely close type of threat is going up against that person that's had those bad moments, just immediately picking the other side. Because overall, Rafael Fiziev is pretty well-rounded, has pretty good striking defense, and I think is just on a technical level above Manuel Torres. That being said, Manuel Torres can absolutely get this done in the first round, in the second round, and for all we know, he has good cardio. I just think scientifically, with how much power he throws and how much energy he puts in each movement, if this fight extends, I'm going to be trusting Rafael Fiziev, and maybe his cardio issues are a little bit overstated. That second Gaethje fight was on short notice. So Fiziev, like I said, I'm not super confident in it. You know, I know he's maybe a little bit public on the money line, but most people here on Tapology, 56%. But Tapology is a little bit more sharp than the regular public. So, hey, we're going to see how this one goes. I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited. Give me some ideas for some videos, man. And if you made it this far, fucking subscribe, man. What are we doing here? Anyways, love you guys. This is Smeezy MMA. This is the 3rd video. We're going to keep it going. Hell yeah, baby. All right. Take care. Peace.